We are under cyber attack, from gasoline to our nation's food supply to the biggest transit system in North America. And now the FBI is calling the attacks as big of a challenge as 9/11. Former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe joins me now with the reaction to these growing threats and much more. Johnny, how are you?
Trey, good to be with you. Congratulations on the show. Dana Perino's sister's watching, my mom's watching, your mom's watching, so that's at least 3.
We're up to 3. That's more than you said I would have, so thank you. And look, John, you came to Congress, and you were hyper-focused on cybersecurity from day one. I mean, the very first conversation I ever had with you, you were talking about cybersecurity. That was years ago. And now the FBI director is saying it's tantamount to 9/11. What worried you about it then, and is it worse now?
Well, Trey, I did legislate a lot as a member of Congress, but I saw it from a different perspective as the Director of National Intelligence. And what I saw, unfortunately, is that there's a gaping hole in our cyber defense, and that hole is called the Department of Homeland Security. By law, the Department of Homeland Security has the authority to defend our networks against domestic attacks, but authority is not capability. And, unfortunately, I think most folks in the government stopped arguing a long time ago about this. The only agency that really has the capability of defending against the kind of cyber attacks that you just talked about was one that was under my purview, the NSA. The problem is the law doesn't allow it. So, the warnings from the FBI director are great, but we need a remedy and a solution, and one that, and I didn't come up with it, it's been out there for a while, but we need to take someone from DHS and give them what's called dual hat authority and locate them within the NSA so that when these attacks happen, the agency that is capable of defending America can be utilized.
Well, Johnny, I want to bounce around with you because I have a subject matter expert. I want to touch on different things. You and I sat beside Jason Chaffetz for a couple of years on Judiciary. So I think we have long suspected that there was life on other planets. But what is going on with UFOs and the report that's coming out? And don't say you can't tell me because you're going to have to kill me. Just tell me what you can.
Well, I know people always want to start with alien life forms and extraterrestrial life. I don't think the report's going to address that. It's not going to rule anything out or anything in, for that matter. I think what's important and what people can expect about this UAP report is I think it'll talk about the number of sightings. They're far greater than have been publicly disclosed before. I think there's been some leaking that there may be as many as 100. I'm not going to dispute that number. But what's more important, Trey, is that the number of sightings and recordings that have been picked up by what we call multiple sensors, that is visual, radar, ISR, satellite. And when you have multiple sensors under conditions where we see UAPs, it explains away a lot of the things like visual disturbances or things like that. And so, I hope the report will address why we can't answer some of these explanations, because here's the bottom line. When it comes to national security, ego can't be involved. If there's something out there that's bigger or faster and stronger, we've really got to answer that question. And so having a discussion about it is going to be a good thing.
Well, Johnny, you were a U.S. attorney before you came to Congress, so you're an evidence-driven guy. You've seen all the evidence. I'm not asking you what it is, but are you more skeptical, less skeptical, or the same on UFOs and life on other planets than you were before you were the DNI?
Well, again, I don't look at it from the standpoint of life on other planets. I look from the standpoint of national security, and here's what troubles me right now, Trey, is a lot of people say, well, maybe it's Russia or China. But some of the things that have been publicly talked about, we know for a fact from the intelligence community, we have high confidence that things like transmedium properties and hypersonic speed, meaning vehicles that go at 5 times the speed of sound, or Mach 5, Russia and China clearly didn't have those in 2004 when some of these things were cited and recorded. And so we need to get explanations for them. And, again, if someone is bigger, faster, or stronger out there, we need to know about it. And so we need to have a discussion where our sailors, our airmen, and our soldiers can talk about it and report it so that we have that information so we can figure out what it is to protect America.
John, we're up on a hard out, so I'm going to give you credit for two things. Number one, you and Tom Cotton and others and Pompeo were talking about the possibility of a leak from a lab long before anybody else was, and they ridiculed you, and you wound up being smarter than they thought you were. And you were talking about Russia way before it was popular to talk about Russia. I think you have an op-ed coming out. Am I correct about that? You got one coming out with Pompeo?
We do on COVID-19, and I'm glad that the people are finally seeing some of the intelligence that Mike and I were able to declassify at the end. For many of us, like Tom Cotton and Mike Pompeo and myself, we've long thought that it was more than just a possibility, more than a probability. I think everyone sees that a lab leak is coming closer to a certainty. So the op-ed will address that. There's more intelligence out there. Thanks, Trey.